talking to folks at companies, and realized soon enough that in a room full of men, women don't ask questions. They
Yeah.
don't find it to be a safe space to put forth their thoughts or put forth their questions, because the fear of judgment. Oh, they're going to think I'm silly, this question is stupid, I shouldn't be asking it, they'll wonder how could I not know this much.
Two very important patterns that we have seen. One thing is definitely that, when it's a combined session of men and women do not ask that many questions. In fact, a lot of times it can be taken as lack of interest.
Yeah.
But we have held a number of women specific sessions, and a lot of times, corporates like to do that for Women's Day. And throughout the year, we also do women specific sessions. We have seen the number of questions from women, in fact, are even more than what we experience with men. They
Yeah.
are so interested, and they reach out to us even after the session to find out, what are the other resources they can, look at. So definitely there's this fear of judgment, I would say, and we have to do something to, kind of resolve that. The other pattern that we have seen is most of the women we speak with, although they are earning, they are, making their own income, they probably have like joint finances, but they do not participate in wealth planning or financial planning in their family. It's always either their father or their husbands.
Luckily, we have been born in a generation where more and more women are joining the workforce and having their own incomes. In fact, like, and that is across different segments, like, whether it's rural India or urban India or tier one cities, more and more women are participating, in the workforce and contributing to the GDP. But like you mentioned, right? This dependence on their male counterparts for financial planning or just simple financial decisions, that is something that I feel that we still have a long way to go. And it's primarily just because, women traditionally have not been so involved in more of the big financial decisions, I would say. I think for the longest time, women have been in charge of the household expenses, right? Because they used to be the primary caregivers and, taking care of the households. But this dependence has come because of the traditional gender roles. And it's still something that we haven't moved away from. And this is one of the biggest mistakes women are making today, given that now most households are dual income households, and that needs both the brains to participate in future planning. And that impacts the lives of women and the family more than they imagine.
I was the only male member in my family since childhood. So there was no actual income source at my home since, let's say, 1996 when it all happened. So managing finances, uh, that too by my dadi, mom, and chachi, I have actually seen women managing finances at my home. How beautifully they have actually, I would say, this is what we have. This is what we can potentially see this becoming in next 25 years, till the time one of our kid will start earning. This is a possible amount which we might need to pay their school fees, college fees, or any possible fees possibly for our education, I would say. X amount of money which we might need for family functions and family commitment. Then an X amount which we might need for their shadis, considering घर पे चार बच्चे हैं और कभी ना कभी चारों बच्चों की शादी होगी. वो प्लानिंग उसी अमाउंट एंड उसी मनी के साथ हुई जो प्रोबेबली माय फादर एंड माय अंकल लेफ्ट अस विद in 1996. So that money never grew. Because we were always spending indirectly or directly from principal. So even for the fact we were getting some very small amount of interest or some very small amount of rent from our old Khari Bauli shop, that was not enough to manage all our expenses. So from that time till probably 2017 or 16, I think we were managing all our finances from that principal amount. So I saw that very beautifully done by my mother and my chachi. Those kind of conversations were always happening at my house, moderated and led by my mother and chachi. As I just mentioned, so they really made sure that that money. And then one last example, even let's say when I started Nati Ninos, my mother managed my entire finance for that entire launch. So she used to pay the vendors, she used to manage the books, she used to make sure what is the dedicated amount we have decided to spend and are we spending it right. So she used to put forward each and every expense of the day into a book so that we don't end up overspending.
Definitely, I feel like in an organization which has more women representation and also more women in leadership, they are definitely able to make more choices with empathy, right? So women are able to bring in the softer qualities of empathy, more collaboration than competition, more support for each other, you know. So these are some things that sometimes we lack in, say, male dominated um, groups, right? So I'm not saying that they don't give you an opportunity, but sometimes these are some unconscious biases or decisions that you end
Yeah,
up making. And I
which
feel
still
like,
exists in a
which
way.
exists for sure, right? I mean, so the women, even though they're more emotional, they bring the softer side of things. I feel like that's very important in today's world, you know, where we're talking about inclusivity and diversity, where we want to bring in people from all parts of the world, different genders together. And I feel like having the women representation who are pretty good, you know, at reading people, at reading the room, at
Yeah.
understanding, you know, how decisions are made, bringing in that softer side of things is quite crucial.
But what do you think has caused this shift for women today?
Right. I think definitely the focus on educating women, right? I mean, in the last generation and the generation before that, there was a lot of focus on getting girls to schools, getting them educated. All of us, you and me included, you know, were given access to the best education. We were given the freedom to pick a career, to pick any opportunity that we wanted to, right? So we actually were a pretty lucky generation in that sense. And also, in some sense, we end up doing maybe much more than what the previous generation did, where they worked from 9 to 5, and at 5 they actually got home and were able to give that time to the family, which we can't these days, because of the flexibility in workplaces. But nevertheless, I mean, you know, we have had more people working because they are educated. You know, we've had more women in the workforce because, you know, they're getting more opportunities to study, to go abroad, you know, to pursue higher education, etc. And there's a lot of value in that. There's a lot of value in bringing women to workforce. But like you said, you know, there are equal number of women, or maybe less these days, who choose to step out. And it's not because they don't want to pursue. You know, I think once you have been exposed to education, once you've been exposed to intellectual stimulation, it's really hard to go back and sit at home and not do anything, right? So even if they are sitting at home, they are constantly looking for opportunities to either learn,
Yeah.
upskill themselves, or, you know, pick up small things, something that they're good at. They start like a small business, they become mini entrepreneurs in some sense, and they're trying to find that purpose.
Women need to step up a bit more compared to what the previous generation had done. I think women's relationship with money has always been there, because I have personally seen my mother taking charge of like all the expenses related to us, because dad was focused on his career and bringing in the income, so called, and mom was kind of focused on managing that, right? So whether people invested in the past or not, or whether the big investment decisions involve women or not, but women always kind of manage household expenses. So it's not that they didn't know about money or they were not good with money. Women have been good with savings and allocating budgets, but tends to stop there. And there's still a lot of inertia in taking that next step into investing and really growing their wealth and planning for the future of the family from the investments point of view. Nowadays, we are seeing women planning for their own future, planning for their parents, for planning for their children, for all these small little things. If you're always having to involve your partner or depend on your partner, involving partner is fine, but depend on your partner, that kind of makes creates unnecessary hindrances. So I think it's extremely important to at least have your own bank account as well. And a very simple practice that we follow in my household, or even advise most of the women, is that have a joint account, which is, like I mentioned in the previous mistake, that have a joint account to have visibility for all the household matters, right? And then it's completely fine for both the partners to have their individual accounts for their, individual expenses. Like if I want to do yoga class, I mean, seriously, it doesn't have to go for family expenses. And it's good, like it helps in terms of budgeting as well, right? You know where the money is going, so you know you have given yourself this much money just to take care of your own needs.